Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another stream in the Endurance quarterfinal series for the Endurance event in the Revit Virtual Racing Challenge. We're 50% through the quarterfinals, 4 races done, 4 races yet to go. Remember, there's 64 drivers in the Revit Challenge, 2 per team. So today we've got 8 more drivers battling it out to get into the semifinals of the Endurance event, which will be held later on this month, by the way. The top 4 finishers from today's race after official classification will make it into the semifinals. So now, for our new viewers joining us here today, welcome to the stream. For our old viewers, welcome back to the stream. Just for the benefit of those who are joining for the first time with us, let me give you a quick introduction to what Revit is all about. So Revit is a virtual racing challenge by Formula Bharat in collaboration with IR Esports. It basically tests the participants' setup knowledge, vehicle dynamics knowledge, basically their entire understanding of a race car and what exactly they need to do in the setup to get their car performing for a specific track and car combination. This event does have racing, but it's also fundamentally a test of your engineering knowledge in setting up the cars. Like I had said, it's a typical recreation of the FS dynamic events that usually go on in Formula Student events all across the world. So today we will be having wheel to wheel action. That's one of the major advantages of having a virtual racing competition. You know, you're safe and comfortable in your cozy gaming chairs at home, looking at your monitors and racing it out to get into the semi-finals. Now, Formula Bharat is an Indian Formula student style engineering design competition in which students from colleges and universities from all over the country compete with life size Formula style vehicles in areas of engineering design, overall cost, marketability, and dynamic performance. The series replicates the Global Formula Student Series, hosted in around 11 countries per year. Launched in 2017, each year the Formula Bharat competition hosts both combustion and electric vehicle categories. With a student community base of more than 8,000 engineering students, the platform hopes to promote practical hands-on engineering experiences. Now, IR Esports are India's largest e-racing organizers. IR Esports has created iconic properties in the racing esports space, such as the Indian e-racing championship, the Volkswagen Virtual Racing Championship, Mumbai's fastest gamer, India's fastest gamer, the Indian Sim Racing League, and many more. IR Esports curates, plans, and executes custom motorsport based campaigns via esports across various mediums. So now that you are all up to speed on what's happening on screen, let's see whether the drivers are up to speed in their qualifying runs. Remember, all these brilliant camera angles, all these views that you see on your screen, all of the server operations are being taken care of by our race directors today, Gaurav and Firoz. We've got real life racing drivers as our stewards for this event. We've got Aditya Pawar, who's got multiple podiums in the Volkswagen Polo Championship and is also the winner of multiple four-stroke karting tournaments. He's also a former test driver and stunt driver for Volkswagen Motorsport and an official Jaguar instructor. We've also got Abha Mankar, who was part of the Force India 1 in a Billion hunt and reached the top 10 in that championship. She's also got multiple podiums in two-stroke and four-stroke karting and has also been part of Jaguar as an instructor. So we've got very experienced hands on board taking care of all the stewarding for the race. My name is Saidat, and together we are all the broadcasting team for this event from IR Esports. So on that note, let's dive straight into the action. It looks like already Ibrahim dived straight into the gravel trap as you saw on screen. But yeah, this is just qualifying. Everyone's getting those temperatures up. Remember, the drag grip starts with very low grip initially. All these drivers are just trying to get those temperatures up, get the rubber laid out on track so that they can put their fast laps in as the clock starts ticking down. So let's start looking at some of the drivers involved in today's grid. Let's have a quick introduction to the different drivers and different teams, all of you supporting these drivers. We'd really love it if you could give a big round of applause to the drivers. Come on, hype it up in the chat. Let's start off with STES Racing. We have seen this team before. STESR, they have been a part of Grid 1. The first driver who was part of Grid 1 was Danish Stamboli. Today, we've got Amit Hulsure taking the wheel taking charge of the wheel in this vehicle. You can see that livery. Remember the blue and black camouflage livery. We saw this in Grid 1. It is a camo livery, but it definitely does stand out in this case in a really nice way. You can see the way it just flashes through these parts of the circuit. Believe it or not, this camo wrap is inspired from the team's actual race car, their actual Formula Student car, the SR22. So this is your your first driver for today. This is Amit, who you see on board. As we see that, I think he just clipped the curb over there, boarding his run. The second team on our grid today is Blue Jay Racing Team, BJRT. We have seen this team as well before. They were on grid two, and their driver from that grid, Adarsh Kumar, managed to get a P2 and get got the team into the semi-finals as per those classifications. Today we've got Shashank taking charge of the wheel. Ravi Shashank taking charge of this vehicle. A really nice livery as well, blue and black streak. Just a simple, straightforward message. They're here to race. They want to make it stand out. And yeah, the Blue Jays have a blue car, and it really does make sense. So good luck to Shashank to get his car also into the semi-finals, just like his teammate from Grid 2. The next car on the grid is another team which we've seen before, FAR, Formula Ashwa Riders. The second driver, Atharv, is the one who's taking care of this car today. Very interesting livery. We've seen this before as well. I had a chat with the team today before the start of this. It is in fact inspired from the Mercedes Petronas car, which we've seen in Formula One for so many years now. A dominant car that's been in F1. Let's hope Atharv can make this FAR car also just as dominant in today's grid. The next team on board is Formula Manipal Electric, another team we have seen in the quarterfinals till now. That is FME. That is the car of Rev Banerjee, who's currently just taking it through, I believe, one of the Lasmo corners, getting down onto the back straight. Another very interesting livery. This looks very. It has certain elements of previous Williams liveries you've seen in the past in Formula One. So yeah, very unique style. Of course, still they've added their own little twist to it and they've made it look amazing. See that engineered with passion. There we go. Yeah, engineered with passion written on the rear wing. All these teams are passionate. I'm quite sure Rake is just as passionate to get his car into the semi-finals. So there we go. That is Rake Banerjee from Formula Manipal Electric. The next team on the grid is Phoenix Racing, PR, being driven by Nishit. So this is a team we haven't seen till now in the quarterfinals. There you go. That's the yellow. It's a stock livery we have for Formula Bharat. It's a yellow stock livery being sported by the team. And this is the first appearance, as I said, for Phoenix Racing in this competition up till now in the quarterfinals. So let's see what Nishit can do. Looks like he's just put a banker lap on board right now. That must be his out lap, but he still is in P3. So let's have a look and see whether Nishit can get himself into the front row of the grid at the end of qualifying. The next team on our grid is Force Racing, abbreviated as FR. That car is being driven by Mohammed Ibrahim, the number 108 car, the Lotus 98T. That everybody else is also driving. His car number, of course, is 108. Another livery that looks very similar to some of the older Williams racing liveries. They've got Forza written on the rear wing. Forza, of course, meaning force, or in an essence, it's the power. I know force and power are not the same thing, but that's kind of a rough translation. Forza, force, makes sense. They are force racing. They will surely be a force to be reckoned with. Let's hope Ibrahim poses a challenge for the other drivers as he pushes to get himself into the top four. Now we do have another team that should be on the grid, Skyline Racing SR, being driven by Rishi. Unfortunately, we don't have them on the grid yet. We've seen some last-minute additions to the grid, last-minute entries into the grid in the past few grids as well. So let's hope Rishi can make himself get himself into the qualifying at least before the race starts. Our final team today is TVR, Team Vegadut Racing. The car is number 218, being driven by Amit. There we go. We saw his teammate Rahul Patel also join the grid quite late yesterday, finishing P7, not making it into the semi-finals. Let's hope this driver Amit Harwat can bring his car home in the top 4 positions. Very unique livery as well. It's a nice little blend of the Williams red, the Williams white and blue, and some of the essences of the McLaren as well from before. So yeah, it is a very nice little hybrid livery. You see their team logo and name on the rear wing. What better way to proudly sport your livery than to plaster your team's name on the back? Let's hope all the drivers have to see that one. Let's hope for Amit's sake, all the drivers see the rear end of the car and don't see him in their mirrors. Amit will want to be charging out in the front and trying to get some redemption for his team and get into the semi-finals. So there you have it, all the teams on today's grid. We have just got about over 3.5 minutes of qualifying left. If we can have a look at the leaderboard, we can understand where exactly everybody is placed on track. As you see it right now, the STESR Amit, unlike the Amit who's just crashed himself into the Lesmo chicane there, I think the TVR Amit had a little bit of an issue through Lesmo too. Nonetheless, the other Amit on grid from STESR is firmly planted in pole position by a huge margin. It's a 4.5-second margin. We didn't see such a huge gap in yesterday's grid in qualifying. Surprisingly, in this grid, we've got a massive gap right now in the front, 4.5 seconds separating STESR and the Blue Jay Racing team. Then we've got P3, Formula Manipal Electrics driver Rake. Another about 4 to 5 seconds, almost 5.2 seconds behind P2. So the gaps are quite significant. You don't want to be seeing such massive gaps in qualifying because that just tells you that the race was also going to be quite spaced out. Let's hope these drivers are actually just putting banker laps and are trying to push in the last 2.5 minutes roughly of qualifying left. Here we ride on board with Amit from STESR firmly taking pole position as it stands. Very careful downshifts into the chicane. We've seen, multiple teams in the past few grids taking this chicane with an air of caution, and I think rightly so. That is one of the more tricky chicanes of this track. Judging by the fact that everybody seems to be avoiding even the normal curves on the track, it's safe to say a lot of these teams must be running really low ride heights and potentially very soft springs. They don't want to bottom those out. They don't want to be planked on one of those sausage curves. Remember, if you do that, you're either going to spin out or just waste the potential of the car. You won't get enough acceleration out of these corners. And as I say that, he takes Ascari a bit more aggressively. And I'm not quite sure if he's gained any time. It doesn't look like this lap is as fast as what a 142 could be. I may be wrong. Let's hope I'm wrong. Let's hope he's improved his lap time by the end. Just entering the final corner. This is the Parabolica corner. He's already running wide as he enters. He might have just braked a bit too late into that corner. Typically, if you brake on time and go wide, it's a clear statement that your car is understeering. And Amit is just teleported back into the pits, having happily taken a 139.6. So that's a massive improvement from his previous time of about a 140 second lap time. So yeah, he's got a good 5 tenths up on his personal best. Very edgy inputs from Shashank as well. I suspect he may be using a controller as opposed to some teams opting to go for a mouse, using a mouse, a computer mouse to steer your car and potentially also accelerate and brake. Remember, using a computer mouse gives you the advantage of using analog inputs. The controller does as well, but a controller's fidelity is not as high. It's a little bit more tricky to play with just a few degrees of movement for your thumb, as opposed to, of course, a mouse where you can move a nice 30 centimeters up to 30 centimeters just to steer your vehicle. But Shashank's just making his way down the back straights, getting a bit of a slipstream advantage, it looks like, from the car up in front. And all that advantage has gone down the drain as he has to move out of the way to avoid a slower car in front. And, that yellow car you see him just spin off over there. Who's that? That's the yellow car of Nishit from Phoenix Racing. He had a severe amount of rear wing damage. You can see that when you see the rear chase cam. You can see it's bent over to the side. Undoubtedly lost control because of too much oversteer, because of too much forward aero bias as he came out of the Ascari chicane. Of course, the timer has run out. We're just into overtime right now, about just under 30 seconds into overtime. Everybody who's on their lap right now has to complete this lap if they want to improve their times. No more going out onto the circuit at this point. Remember, the timer is out. Whatever lap time you put right now is what you have. And as I say that, Nishit decides to park his car into the pit lane, albeit quite dramatically. Let's hope Nishit has a better start because his lap time is a bit off the leader space at the moment. Remember, we've seen a lot of teams fight back from the tail end of the grid. There's no saying what's going to happen today. That could very well happen for some of these drivers. Arthur in his FAR just trying to chop off some more time. He's about 3 seconds slower. He was 3 seconds slower. He's just over 2 seconds slower than P2 right now. So he'll be starting in third place unless anybody else on track can snatch away that position. And Amit from STESR, the pole sitter, is just just having a little bit of fun on track, maybe trying to just improve his car, improve the performance of his car, potentially seek out a little bit more performance and try to tweak his setup before the race starts. But this is what the order stands like right now. We're just going to have to wait and see, wait for that leaderboard to pop up and gear up for what should be a very, very exciting race. Let's hear your predictions in the comments. Who do you think is going to win this race? Those of you who are supporting your teams, hype it up. Those of you who are neutral supporters today, let us know who you think is going to win today's race. Someone in the comments saying this is basically an Amit grid. It looks like it. I mean, we've got 2 out of 8 cars as Amit, so only got 25% of the grid covered for that name. One Amit in the front end of the field, the other Amit at the tail end of the field. Everyone else sandwiched in between. Let's see what both the Amits can do in this race. One for sure has pole position at the time. Can hear the revving in the background. As soon as we pan our camera back, you will see all the cars revving themselves up on the grid. Undoubtedly staying in neutral gear. Hopefully, they'll rev it up to first when the green flag drops. Let's wait and see what happens. We have 45 seconds on the clock. Let's just have a quick cycle through each car, enjoy their magnificence and the engine noises, the engine sounds before we go under green flag conditions. A very blue grid, but not gloomy in any way. A very exciting grid for sure. Not a speck of red, not like what we've seen before. The only red we see on our screens are those red lights flashing. 6 lights are on. We've done just a few seconds for green flag, and we are under racing conditions right now. Already one of the Williams-looking cars at the back has had a bit of an issue as they get off the line slow. Someone else spins straight into the wall. Is that the Blue Jay Racing car? Yes, it is. It is the BJRT car of Shashank who just spun into the wall. We're already going to have a word with Shashank and find out what happened at the end of the race. Unfortunately, we don't have any replays. We don't need replays for anyone else up in front, though, because everyone else seems to have gotten away cleanly, making it through the chicane. Amit, the pole sitter, still has pole position, still has first place, rather. But Athar from FAR is hot on his heels, and Reek has made up a few places, jumping into P3. Ibrahim taking P4 as the order stands. Let's ride on board with Reek as we watch the two front runners trying to battle it out. As I say that, Athar gets onto the curb, gets a bit slow on exit. Rehik misjudges that, taps him at the back. Hopefully, there's no damage to either of those cars. Remember, if you have a damaged car, you have to pit. You cannot be running with a damaged car. You will get penalized if you have a damaged car on track. Firstly, we're going to have to wait for that leaderboard to update in Assetto Corsa. You need to finish one lap before you get proper updates on the times. Remember, you can see BJRT in P5, but I'm quite sure he is at the tail end of the grid right now, having pitted first. Let's just wait and see. Let's wait for these drivers to get their temperatures up, get the tires in working condition. It looks like only the one person who doesn't need to worry about that is first place. The first place driver already miles ahead of P3. Look at the gap already. Amit has a firm hold of P1 right now. That camouflage car is basically camouflaging into the distance out in front. P1 and P2 and P3 are going to want to stay close behind him before he disappears for good in the rest of this race. There you have it. Shashank's made his way back into P5. It's good to see he's back up there. So maybe the last two drivers on the current grid have also had to pit for some reason. We see Nishit in the yellow the yellow PR car, the Phoenix Racing car, pushing his way through in P6. And then at the back of the grid, we've still got TVR Amit. He's already got some wing damage. You can see the front wing bent out of shape right now, staying over there. Amit might have to pit if that damage is critical. He seems to be taking it quite smoothly right now. Let's wait for the lap times and maybe the gaps to start popping up to see exactly what the order is like. Amit now firmly out in front. You can see that gap building up now to about 5 to 6 seconds. You've got to really give that timing screen a bit of time to refresh itself. Right now, it's refreshing a bit too quickly. I would highly recommend for our viewers to kind of look at references on track if you want to have an idea of how much of a time they're gaining. Remember, this leaderboard continuously updates every few milliseconds, and that's why you see the gaps constantly changing every tenth of the way through. Arthur, now having taken P2 at the beginning of the race, is actually managing to hold on to the P1 driver. So he's not giving STESR any rest for the time being. He's giving them a run for their own money as well, powering his car on in P2. But you see the gap between P2 and P3 already building up to 10 seconds. It'll actually be quite interesting since there's no action currently on track. Can we have a look at Amit's onboard? I want to know if TVR Amit, the one with front wing damage, is actually still struggling with that damage. I see he's still out on track. Can we ride on board with Amit and see where exactly he's struggling? You'll start noticing already with the lack of front end grip, he's going to start understeering into a lot of these higher speed corners wherever the aero elements start playing their own little game on the car, pushing it down. You see that he's already understeering a lot mid corner at Ascari. Let's ride on board with him until he gets into Parabolica. Remember, that is where you need a lot of downforce as well. One of the higher performance sections of this track for the aerodynamic elements. Braking quite early, well before that 50-meter board, unlike many other cars we see. And you see Amit already struggling. I think at this point, Amit might have to consider pitting if he wants to pick up the pace, because that gap is already built up to 30 seconds. Mind you, just to P6. He's still got to make his way up to P4 if he wants to get into the semi-finals. So Amit's going to have to start pushing. Let's hear some support for TVR as they make their way from the back end of the grid. Let's cycle up to Nishit and PR Phoenix Racing, who you can see has about 4 seconds up ahead. Yes, Amit's called it quits on that lap to get back and fix his car. Let's jump on board with Nishit. He's just behind Force Racing. He's just behind FR from the FR car of Ibrahim. You can see Forza from the front. Unfortunately, Nishit can only see the tail end of Ibrahim's car. Let's ride on board with Nishit and see how his car handles in these higher speed sections. Getting into Ascari, taking a little bit more time. You can see the car is responding a lot better than the broken car that we had seen before this. So he's managing to take it a lot more consistently through that corner. Let's just see how he takes Parabolica. Let's try to note down where exactly he's deciding to brake and get those longitudinal forces, pushing the car back, slowing it down, taking a very tight line. Car is responding well, perhaps a bit too much. You can see the sort of constant counter steering he's having to give from his input. So there could be a chance that he either has a neutral or oversteering car. What do you all reckon in the comments? Of course, the only way to really find out is to look at their setup. We cannot reveal that, unfortunately, but it'll be good to have a bit of an engineering discussion. What do you all reckon is the aero balance for Phoenix Racing? You can see him get into a more slower section. Let's hear some hype in the chat. Let's have some discussions in the chat. Come on, let's have some support for these drivers. Something tells me this battle is far from over. We see some people in the comments saying no battles today. Give it some time. The battles are just brewing. Remember, we saw some extremely interesting overtakes being made in the latter half of the race. The first half of the race has always been a little somber. It just becomes more and more exciting as the race goes on, as the tire grip slowly reduces. You can see a very slow movement in the camera. Someone has stopped at the exit of Lesmo. But in all of this chaos, there we go. You have it. You can see TBR's car over there with Nishit just lapping him at this point. But a lot of time is yet to be completed in this race. We've got just under 13 minutes of the race left. So we've got a train of 3 cars running over here, and PR, the Phoenix Racing driver, has managed to chop down that gap to the Force Racing driver up ahead. Who's going to win? Is it going to be the Phoenix, or is it going to be the powerful Force up front? Let's ride on board with Nishit. This is definitely going to be an overtaking maneuver in the bag very soon for Nishit if he can maintain the current pace. You see the car up ahead firmly holding his position. Nishit surprisingly not taking a slipstream, and then you see Ibrahim slowing down. That's surely not a slipstream effect. It looks like Ibrahim's just conceded that position, or rather, he has not. He's picked up the pace as soon as he realized that Nishit was right behind him. Nishit hot on his tails. Let's ride on board. Let's actually ride on board with Ibrahim from the rear view angle. I want to see if there's a dive. There's no dive bomb into that chicane. There's a dive straight into the Aramco barrier for Nishit. He lost control on exit. That's already an indication that there is some sort of oversteering element acting on that car. That is a high speed corner. Remember, Curva Grande, the third official corner of the Monza circuit. So he's planted himself into the wall. He's surely going to have some damage. Phoenix Racing has a lot of ground to make up still, but only about 11 seconds to P4. Both these drivers can potentially work together and find their way up to P4 by forming a drafting train. Let's see how the strategies start playing out. Remember, some of the drivers might be in communication with each other. As far as I can see, none of them are in touch with each other, but you know, a lot of this could be a team game. Let's hope it's all clean and fair racing, though. You see a bit of net code on that Blue Jay racing car. See the way that slip angle? That's really not the type of slip angle you see through a Ascari. It's surely just a small glitch from the game. Let's ride on board with Shashank actually and see how he takes some of these faster corners, turning into Parabolka just in time. We watch him. He's trying to throw the car in constantly, despite going slow. So definitely a bit of understeer for this vehicle, and it seemed to happen more as he entered the corner. Perhaps a very stiff rear rebound, potentially a very stiff front rebound. Maybe their bump stops later are slightly different. We can perhaps tell after seeing a few more turn-ins, maybe into the slower corners, turning into the chicane sequences. Seems to be understeering everywhere. This is surely a mechanical and aero game here. Both parts of the setup being made for understeer. Very, very interesting design choices you see. Sorry, not design choices, rather setup choices that we've seen from these teams. Some of them opting for pure oversteer, others opting for pure understeer. What do you all think in the comments? What sort of car do you think helps in tackling some of these monstrosities of corners at Monza? Do you think an understeering car helps or an oversteering car? Let's hear some of those opinions of yours in the comments as Shashank makes his way into the Lesmo 2 corner. Once again, constantly having to throw that car in, so he's not having any sort of front end grip from this car. He really seems to be struggling out there. Not really struggling for track position though. Very lonely race for the Blue Jay Racing driver over here. The same can actually coincidentally be said for every single car on track. Very quiet race up till now, I believe. One of the more quieter races we have had in this quarterfinal run-up. Formula Manipal Electric rather, comfortably in P3 right now. Remember, we had the other driver for Formula Manipal Electric, Nainesh Patel, finish at least on track in P3 in the third grid, the third quarterfinal race that we had a couple of days ago. So we already have one of those teams at least unofficially making their way into the semi-finals. Let's see if Ray can manage to hold on to P3 and get his car also up there. We've got P2, which is well over 15, 16 seconds ahead of Rake right now. Atav strongly taking that Mercedes inspired car of FAR into the second step on the podium. Currently, Amit, of course, the race leader Amit, is well over 20 seconds ahead of his nearest competition. This might be that point in time where he'll start seeing traffic from other sources, from other parts of the track. Some of the other drivers who have had less fortunate races up till now. For Amit, however, he's strongly in P1 right now, with just about 8 minutes of the race left. At this race, there might be about another 6 to 7 laps of the race remaining. Let's jump straight into Amit's view as he comfortably has some clean track up ahead, very much like every other driver. However, he's of course clearly in the front of the pack. If we can ride on board with one of those cars we haven't checked out yet, you can see maybe how TVR Amit is faring. He's just about 50 seconds behind P6. That's a good, more than about half a lap's worth of time behind his closest competition. Um, Having to take it very slow into Ascari. So Amit is not having the best of days right now in his car. There are 7 minutes left, but things are starting to look a little wary for this driver unless he starts picking up that pace. We know all these drivers have potential. They are the best that their teams offer in terms of their driving potential. So let's see if Amit can fight his way up. At least to catch Ibrahim, who's constantly a couple of laps down by the looks of it, at least 1.5 laps down on P5. So it looks like maybe the top five runners are having much more comfortable races. And if they can maintain this pace, they do have their position secured. As Nishit slows down massively at that chicane. Surely that's some sort of a penalty he's having to serve. Remember, Assetto Corsa does levy some sort a sort of a slowdown penalty. If you gain time on a section of track, it penalizes you by making you slow down way more than how much you gained. So it's really not the best sort of trade-off. It is very unfair, but at the same time, you shouldn't be cutting corners. So I'm quite sure Nishit may have just jumped one of those curbs and gained an unfair advantage. Either way, he has slowed down, served his penalty. He's still got a good 25 seconds to chop down to the Blue Jay Racing driver up ahead. Remember, we had some good overtakes over there. That doesn't look like an overtake. That looks more like some sort of net code. It looks as though Shashank is glitching all over the place. Is that an issue with his internet connection? Surely that shouldn't be the way he loses P4. I think he's already lost P4 to Atharv, who passed him some time back. We did see a blue car just overtake the Blue Jay Racing car. But right now, all the other drivers can potentially start taking advantage of this. I see Atharv's also pitted. Okay, so Atharv's back in the pits as well. Maybe that glitch caused some damage for him. Shashank is still comfortably in P4. So yeah, it will again be interesting to have a word with both Shashank and Atharv to find out what exactly happened over there. Arthur still sitting in the pits. Is this a massive damage fix he has to do? Whether it is or not, he's already lost a huge chunk of time, about 50 seconds to the car he needs to get to in order to make it into the finals. Just about 4.5 minutes left in this race as Ibrahim tries to capitalize on this and chop down some of those times as well. If Atharv still stays in the pit another 30 to 40 seconds, Ibrahim will surely take that spot, but he still has to chop down more than a lap to get up to Shashank, who is the target right now for most of these drivers. That is the final P4 spot you need to get into the semifinals. Who's it going to be? Who's going to take it? Is Shashank going to hold on to that? Let's hope his net doesn't give way through this process. Is FAR going to fight back? Is FR going to gain from that? Or is TVR going to pick up one of those pieces as well as Amit starts charging his way up the field from the back? It's just one of those races where you have some massive gaps between all the cars. I think it feels as though all the drivers have just decided to space themselves out a little bit, just so that each one covers one part of the track. It feels almost like track inspection crew at this point. But that's racing. Sometimes things do get spaced out. Sometimes some unfortunate incidences do put you down in plumb last. That is the serendipity of motorsport. Sometimes you can also gain some positions because of someone else's misfortune, especially when it comes to virtual racing. Lots of other parameters, non-mechanical, can affect you, one of them being internet, which we suspect might be the issue for both Shashank and Atharv currently. Atharv still stuck there in the pits, looks like, looking at how much time he's losing as Yep, no, no, he's not in the pits, even though the relative seems to be plummeting quickly. Satar has made his way back on track, but he's about a lap behind P4 right now. And if he maintains a slow pace right now, Ibrahim from Force Racing will catch up to him by before the end of this race. 2.5 minutes left on the race clock. Let's just see where the race leader is in all of this chaos. There you go. He's making his way through Curva Grande. Some pretty crazy incidents that we saw in that run up into the Della Roja chicane yesterday and the day before that. Today, however, it's been a very quiet race for most of these drivers. That might not have been a quiet race for that PR driver up ahead, the Phoenix Racing driver, because he does have some wing damage. This is, of course, the race leader right now coming up to lap the Phoenix Racing driver. So that is Amit taking taking advantage of the blue flag potentially being waved for the Phoenix Racing driver. Phoenix is not giving up that fight. They are comfortably in P3, but for some reason, he's not conceding the position. He's able to hold on to that despite having front wing damage. So it looks like Nishit has unlocked some untapped potential here for probably been storing from the beginning of the race, but he's already starting to pull away from the race leader despite having front wing damage. So it's really good driving by Nishit. As long as he's not impeding the race leader's stride. Remember, Amit has the right of way here, being the car lapping him. There you go, Amit getting his way past Nishit, who is in P3. So the leader's already lapped P3 as well. If he keeps this race, if he keeps this rate up, will he be the first ever driver in the competition to lap everybody on the field? Well, he's got Rake about 76 seconds behind. That means at least about half a minute behind him on the racetrack. As in, he needs to at least gain about 30 seconds of race time in order to lap the P2 driver. Seems very unlikely given this is the final lap of the race. 40 seconds left on the clock, and Amit has had the pretty stellar drive right from the get-go. Had a really good start in the race. I think one of the first times we've had the pole sitter finishing P1, if I'm not mistaken. So Amit is charging to get that P1 position, solidify both his place in the semifinals and his name in the glory in all those books where they praise the drivers who are the winners of the race. You want to get into semifinals, but it's always very nice to get onto the podium as well. Making his way down into Ascari one last time. Let's ride on board with Amit, since there are no other overtakes happening right now on track. Let's ride on board with the winner. Let's see what it feels like to be the leader and the winner of a race. Making his way down that final little mini straight. Let's see his car's handling. Coincidentally, we have not seen the way this car handles up till now. One last time braking into Ascari, points it in, keeps the steering more or less stable. That's what you want to do. You want to have a car that you can just point and shoot into the corner. As Amit comes across the final start finish line, crosses the line to take the checkered flag to end the race, to take P1 in this pretty slow pace race, I would say. Certainly not slow pace for the winner. He had a stellar drive, solid pole position to pole to victory. He had a grand slam this weekend. Rick, the P2 driver, see how far back he is. He's still in the first sector of the lap, with some of the other drivers, of course, all being lapped already. So they've all taken the checkered flag one lap down. Looks like the only driver still on track, racing and pushing to complete his lap, is Rick from Formula Manipal Electric. I think Formula Manipal Electric will be really happy to have gotten both their cars into the finals, at least as the order stands right now. The STES racing car of Amit also taking. Getting into the semifinals. His co-driver Danish Tamboli, who was P4 in Grid 1, is also in the semifinals as of that order. Remember, all of these are based off the finishing order of these cars from the stream. So we still haven't given the official results after post-race penalties. But for the sake of these drivers, let's hope that those results are the way they stand, at least for those in the top four. Shashank comfortably taking fourth position for this race. So this is how the order stands for today's race. Amit taking taking a dominant victory, as we have seen dominant victories from every other winner in this series up till now. Rick taking Formula Manipal Electric into P2, Nishit taking his Phoenix racing car all the way up to P3. What has happened here? He did have a messy race in the beginning, but he did manage to take P3 with a broken wing, and that's what matters at the end of the day. Shashank taking P4 for the Blue Jay Racing team, and of course the last three drivers, Atharv, Amit from TVR, and Mohammed Ibrahim from Force Racing, unfortunately finishing out of the semifinals. However, you can see that they have got a nice little haul of points. Unfortunately, not making themselves into the semifinals. Highly doubt there will be any investigations, maybe a couple of contacts which we saw, those might be looked into. But quite an uneventful race. Surely they weren't uneventful for the drivers. Let's get them right into the commentary room. Let's just wait for them to all make their way into the commentary room. We can have a word with some of these drivers and how their races actually went. So I believe I was on mute for a while. Sorry about that. Yeah, welcome to the commentary room, Shashank, the P4 driver for today. Firstly, congratulations on getting into P4, potentially getting it into the semifinals if the order stands. Can you first run us through the race start?
The race started fine, but I had some network problem here. So, uh, from my perspective, I felt as if uh, every other driver was teleporting here and there. So that might have cost me something. Uh, but before the start, I mean, after just the race started, I spun and uh, I teleported back to the pits. So it wasn't the best of starts that I had.
Yep, yep. We saw that. We saw you spin right into the left end of the barrier. We suspected you might have had severe damage, but then later on in the first lap itself, we see you were back in P5. So great job on jumping back into the track and hunting down the drivers up ahead. We did see some glitching. We saw a bit of contact between you and I believe the FAR driver Atharv. Was there any damage
Yeah.
that came out of that incident at Ascari?
Uh, yes. I mean, at the end of the race, I crashed into someone. I couldn't see the name because of a network problem. The driver in front of me was teleporting according to me because of my network problem. So I ran into him. So it damaged my suspension. So I had to go back to the pits again.
Yep, very unfortunate. We always say some of the drawbacks of virtual racing is sometimes that network can be the pesky problem in all of the chaos in the race. Either way, Shashank, congratulations on at least getting P4 right now as the order stands. Yeah, and go ahead and celebrate with your team. Anyone you want to thank before pushing off? Saw a lot of support for you in the comments as well.
Yes, I want to thank my whole team, especially our team head Sandeep Bhaiya. So I want to thank him, and also uh, my driver who was in the endurance, Adarsh. We sort of uh, discussed everything before the race.
Yep. Congratulations. Two cars into semifinals as it stands right now. Have a great evening, Shashank, and good job on your P4. The next driver we
Thank you
can
so much.
perhaps get into the interview room. Let's get P3. Do we have Nishit on board? P3, the one who took the last step on the coveted podium. Let's wait and see if Nishit makes his way into the room. Welcome to the interview room, Nishit. Congratulations on that podium. We saw you run most of the race with a damaged front wing. Can you first run us through where you got that damage? Where was that? Where did that sprout up during the race?
Yeah, actually, in the starting, I got crashed twice with, I don't know, someone driver. But yeah, actually, in the end, I covered up. That's a great thing.
Yeah, that was really good. That was really good. We saw you taking it quite cleanly, maybe a little bit of a tussle, in fact, with the race leader towards the end. But you were holding that car really well with a damaged wing. So congratulations on that podium. Anything else interesting happened to you in the race? We didn't see much else going on track.
Yeah, initially, I got some penalty due to some network issue, but yeah, that's fine in the end. It was good.
Definitely, definitely, man. Jumping from P6 all the way to P3, really congratulations, making your way into the podium. At least as the order stands, you have made it into the semifinals. Remember, we will be putting out official results later on in the competition. But congratulations, Nishit, on your podium. Anyone you'd like to thank in the comments? We've seen a lot of support for you.
Thanks.
Yep, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. The next driver who will get into the interview room. Let's get P2 driver. Do we have Rick in the interview room? I believe we do. Welcome, Rick Banerjee. Welcome. Congratulations firstly on making it into P2. To be honest, we didn't see much of you in the race, but can you run us through any sort of events you might have had in the race? It seems like you had quite a clean race from P4 to P2.
Yeah, so basically what happened is that I started from P4 and so basically after that the guy who was in the third position, he just slipped off the track. So I was taking the lead. So I was in P3 that time, and I thought, there was a chance that I could even come, like I could come P2 lot faster, but that didn't happen because I was penalized for cutting a corner. Like I didn't do it. I didn't do it purposely, but so 5 seconds were wasted there. So
Mhm.
I was in P3, but I didn't realize how I came into P2. To be honest, like
Yeah.
I was crossing cars. I was
Mhm.
bypassing them. I overtook a few cars, but I was just I didn't see my position much. I only drove and drove. So the grip was nice, everything was nice, and
Mhm.
then to my pleasant surprise, I was in P2. So I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. We always say it's the consistency that gets you up in those podium positions. So congratulations in
Yes,
getting the podium. If you've had a clean race, hopefully you hold that position and make your way into the semifinals as well. Congratulations to your team as well. I believe your co-driver also made it into the semifinals as the order stands. So
yes.
congratulations. Enjoy with your team. Anyone you'd like to give any shout outs for in the comments? Anyone, any support that you'd like to thank?
I just wanna thank my team. So basically, just before the race, I had, like shout out to obviously Formula Manipal, my teammates, my seniors. They really gave me some tips which helped me in this race today. So yeah, that's it.
Yep. Yep. It's all about that teamwork. Congratulations, Ray. Go and enjoy that podium. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
The next driver we have in the interview room. Let's get our race winner, Amit, into the interview room. I believe we didn't have a chat with him yet. welcome Amit from STESR. Dominant performance, taking pole position in qualifying and then taking the top step of the podium. Quite a lonely race for you, right? Can you first run us through this race start? Did you have to defend into T1?
No, no. Just I was just worried about the start itself, but once I got the lead, even though I was making slow laps, but I was still gaining time on other people. So kept the race slow and steady and maintained it till the last.
Yep,
Didn't
yep.
went didn't push that much till the end.
Yeah, we saw some very smooth inputs from you as well from the steering, not really pushing too hard, but keeping it clean. What sort of input device are you using for this competition?
Yeah, I'm using a controller.
Controller, yep, yep. So it's very interesting choice. A lot of some of the winners going with mouse, others opting for
Yeah,
controller. It's really good to see you opting for a controller. Also, we saw a bit of a battle with you and one of the, I believe it was P3, by the way. You lapped everyone but the second place driver. Did that cost you some time, or were you just having some fun towards the end?
yeah. In the last lap, it did cost me time, but I knew that I had a pretty good lead, so didn't push there as well. But when I got the chance on the first straight, then I went on 100 turbo and then overtook him.
Oh wow, very brave to get onto 100% turbo, especially in this car. Either way, I believe that is one of the things that did help you at the end of the day. You made that choice and it paid off. Congratulations, Amit, on having an absolutely dominant victory, one of the more dominant victories we've seen up till now. Anyone you want to give a shout out for in the comments?
Yeah, I want to say thanks to my team like Shaunak and Danish, the other driver.
Yep. Great job, Amit. I believe looking at the standings, your co-driver as well, the driver from Grade One, Danish, has also made it into P4, at least as the order stands. So as of now,
Yeah,
you do have two cars in the semi-finals. Congratulations on that. Have a great evening. Go and celebrate with your team.
thank you.
Next driver in the interview room. So now that we've covered the top four, we have a few other drivers interested in giving their run through the race. Let's first get Atharv into the interview room. Atharv from FAR, who finished in P5, just missing out on P4. Let's just get Atharv into the interview room. Hello, Atharv. Welcome to the interview room. A very unfortunate missing out on P4, but you had. I think he left the room. You just wait for him to rejoin. Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like maybe Atharv has disconnected due to some network issues. However, it will be great to have an idea of what happened to him as well. Perhaps we can try to invite some of the other drivers into the interview room, maybe some other day. But everyone who has taken part, at least who was in the ready for interview room, has given their interview. So, on that note, thank you all for joining us today for the fifth grade of the quarterfinals. We're almost there. We've got three more races left to decide the final pecking order for the semi-finals yet to take place. Maybe will be taking place a few weeks from now at the end of the month. As of now, thank you all so much for joining us in this exciting race. Well, it's been a bit of a quiet race, but certainly exciting for these drivers. Kudos to them to have completed it. My name is Sajid Ramesh. I'd like to sign off on behalf of IR Esports, Formula Bharat, Optimum G, and everyone else involved in making Revit a huge success. Thank you all. Thank you, viewers, for giving your time, enjoying the stream. I hope you're enjoying these streams, and we'll catch you all in tomorrow's stream.